right, we on.
Right, we are live.
Okay.
You should be starting.
Good
Right.
evening, everyone.
Ooh.
I'd like to welcome you to the Wednesday, August 5th work session meeting. It's been a while since we've had a work session meeting, so it'll be good to come together tonight. Excuse me, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll to call us to order, to bring us to order?
Mrs. Gator,
Here.
Mrs. Moomin,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Freeman. You give us
Ray,
the high sign?
hold on. You got your phone on mute, Ray. He's here.
Okay, and Miss Mitchell.
Here, I'm here. All righty, we are going to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I do apologize, I did forget to ask someone to do it up front, so if we can just take a moment and I will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Oh my goodness, with liberty and justice for all. I'm sorry. I totally blanked out there. Next on the agenda is item 1.4, public participation. Mr. Jolly, you didn't share that you had any emails this week with anything that had come in from the community for public participation for us to read?
No. Oh,
Okay.
did
Go
we
ahead.
do the approval of the agenda? I'm sorry.
Oh, I skipped one, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Item 1.3, we need to have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda. However, before we do so, I need to know, do we have additions or deletions from tonight's agenda?
Yes, I would like to add the restart of sports to the agenda.
Okay.
I would like for the board to consider restarting sports. I did get this late to the board, but I've been gathering all the information. And I just like the board to consider the restart of sports.
So can we add that to item 2.3? And that will be returned to level 2 sports?
Yes, return, yeah, level 2.
Okay,
Mhm.
so we're
and
gonna
I
add that to 2.3, and then board, I would like to add at the very end, just a discussion of the dates for the retreat, the new dates for the retreat, so we can get those back to the facilitator to get on her calendar. So we'll put that under, we'll make that the new item 5, and then adjournment will be item 6. Does that work for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
So may I please have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda for Wednesday, August 5th, 2020, with the 2 additions, 2.2, return to level 2 sports, and then number 5, discussion of new board retreat dates. Can someone make a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I'm sorry, give me those dates again. I mean, the numbers again. I apologize.
2.3 is a return to level 2 sports. The new item 5 will be the discussion of the new board retreat dates.
All right, Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve the agenda with the addition of item 2.3, return to sports, and item 5 will be discussion about the board retreat.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Been moved and properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, board, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
You really meant
Miss
that.
Mitchell.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Now we can go to item 1.4. Mr. Jolly, you'd already noted that we didn't have anything coming via email for public participation.
No.
Okay. Next on our agenda is item 1.5, new construction updates. And we have with us this evening, Steve Zanoni and Sean White and Doug. So I will hand the meeting over to the 3 gentlemen to start the discussion.
10%.
Oh, hold on.
And
Hold on 1 second. Yeah, I'm pulling up this screen now.
Okay. I'm going to ask all board members, if you're not already on mute, to please go on mute.
Uh-oh.
Do you want me to try, Don, to put it on?
Yeah, see if, yeah,
All right,
I'm
let's
gonna have to give
see.
you permission to do it.
Share screen, or you're gonna give me the screen. All right. I'm never good at this,
Right,
but.
I got it.
Oh, great.
got it,
Thank
Steve.
you. Thank you,
It
Don.
just popped up.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, great.
Okay. Good.
Great. And Don, we'll probably ask you to kind of go through, just first to give you the agenda, and then I'm going to hand it over to Doug first. We're going to talk to you about segment 1, which is new pre-K 5 elementary project update. Then I'm going to talk to you, asking Doug to kind of walk us through that. Then I'm going to walk you through where we are on the middle school, high school, where we are in the schematic design, a budget update, and there's some schedule updates. And we do have an upcoming request, not for today, but we're going to talk about it, which would be for a site package for segment 2. So Don, if you can go to the next screen, and I'm going to have first Doug, why don't you go through the project update?
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We have nothing but good news for the new elementary school. For all of our targets for budget and schedule, we are on target. The construction is going very well. We're scheduled for substantial completion on October 30th, which is going to include the final cleaning and all the furniture. And then we're going to be doing a phase move in with the district, so we can if we want to do it in 2 steps, and over Thanksgiving and then over Christmas to kind of lighten that load. We're also setting up for all of the owner training to happen over November, so that we can get all an understanding about how to use all the facilities and everything else. We are currently under budget for all of our owner contingencies, as well as for our CMR contingencies and our allowances. Everything's tracking very well. And any of the funds that we have left over from the new elementary school, we're going to be shifting into segment 2. So that'll help us with the middle school and high school and all the other projects that we have. From a construction standpoint, I threw in just a couple of pictures to can see how, I'm sure most of you have been there already, but the gymnasium is pretty much wrapped up with the flooring and the acoustical treatments on the walls. Inside the dining room, they have the floor finishes, and they have in the kitchen, all of the kitchen equipment's going in. As far as the construction, we're still on schedule with currently, they still have projects with the painting and the floor finishes and everything that we would expect to have them to continue on. And that was it. I just wanted to have a brief update of good news. If there's any questions, we can answer any questions with that. Otherwise, we can roll right into segment 2.
Are there any questions? Just to add to this, Doug, I know it might be a little premature, but I think I feel pretty confident since we're so close to ending. We're talking about a significant savings that project came in under budget, and we're probably going to move. We did not have to use a lot of our contingencies, and as some of you are aware, our contingencies are there for unforeseen conditions, things that could go wrong, so we can make sure that we stay within the budget framework. And we're looking at between $1.5 to $1.8 million returning to the project, which will go to this new segment. So we're very pleased at where the project is. I hope all of you, can find time to come for a visit. You can ask us anytime, talk to Don. The building is really phenomenal. I mean, it's just amazing. It's so well built. The classrooms are really exciting. It's very large. And I think it's going to really meet the needs and the future needs of the district. So there are no questions on segment 1. I was going to give you an update of where we are on segment 2, which is the new middle school, high school. And I thought we would start out with this aerial, which kind of shows you, it's from Northfield, and it kind of shows you how the building is built. As you know, the building is actually going to be built behind the existing high school, and then it'll be connected to the rec center, which you see on the right hand of the screen. And then if you look where the words middle school are, that's our existing science wing. As you know, that was built under the other program, which was called ELP, and we're required to save it, and we are, and we're going to be reusing it, and it'll be part of the middle school. And as you can see, the building is set up in such a way where the middle school has its own entry on the left-hand side, and then the high school, you'll see two entries. You see sort of those sloped roofs. The one to the right is the main high school entry, and the one in the center will be the community entry, which will allow then all the community uses that we're going to have for this building, which we're quite excited. Behind the building, you see the new stadium, and behind that, you see the new ball fields, and that takes you all the way to Warrensville Road. As you can see, we also have to the existing apartment buildings. We're in discussions with the Planning Commission right now, and we're coming up with I think some exciting plans to soften the edge of the back of that side of our building of the middle school. So the residents at the apartment buildings aren't just looking into a building, they'll be looking at quite a bit of landscaping. Don, if you could go to the next slide. And so this is from as you drive in and you see to the right, it says Warrensville Heights High School, and that's the main entrance. And if you notice, we're using very similar architectural styles to the elementary school, which is that wing that goes, inverted wing. And then on the other side of the wing is the large community entry, which would be used for major community events, either for and you'll see that on the floor plan, for things such as the arena, gymnasiums, sporting events, also events inside the cafeteria, and then also events in the new auditorium. Don, if you could go to the next slide. And then this is the middle school entry. So it has its own separate entry, and you'll see on the floor plans, there is no intermingling of the grades. So the middle school has its own entry, its own image, and its own section of the building. And there isn't that mixing of that. They even have separate dining rooms, even though the kitchen backs up to both dining rooms for the high school and the middle school. And then if you go to the next one, I put this slide in because this is the existing, which is almost completed, the existing new elementary. I wanted to show you how the new building has a lot of imagery from the elementary. So it doesn't look like we've just built two buildings. It's really going to have a campus-like feeling from one building to another. And things such as the use of color, with the use of the three colors of metal panels, and the use of the wings that we have in the other building. Don, if you go to the next slide. And so you can see how, yes, it looks similar, but it is different. The windows treatment, the architects have come up with very, very unusual, section. This is the back of the high school. The high school is 3 stories, while the middle school and the rest of the building is basically 2 stories. And you can see it has the same colors of brick. You see the same kinds of metal panels, and you see a lot of color variation. And one of the colors is that color on the base, which pulls in the colors that are in the existing rec center. So it doesn't look like the rec center is a separate building. It looks like it's integrated back to it. So even on the back side, and this is the side facing toward the stadium, is quite nice. If you go to the next slide. This is the side that we're working on with the Planning Commission. We show a roadway. We're going to get rid of that. It's basically, we only need to have some sort of hard surface to allow for emergency vehicles. And we're really working on a huge landscape plan. And we've gotten some very good input from the Planning Commission for the city of Warrensville Heights. So we're still in process. But again, you can see we use the variation of windows. You can see to the right is the existing science wing, and then our new building, and you can see the colors in that all integrate back together. And then you see those large areas in the background, which are kind of high. Those are high windows that are going to have, we're going to have clear stories that will then go inside the 2 gymnasiums, one for the high school and one for the middle school. And Don, now this gives you the complete site plan. And so you can see it's pretty exciting. As you can see from Northfield, we have a major entry road that allows for drop off of students either at the high school or at the middle school, or as you see where it says in the middle, commons, which will be for major school events. But you can see how it integrates back to the existing rec center, so it doesn't feel like it's not out of place. And you can see that the high school sits at the top of the building, the commons areas in the center, and then the middle schools at the lower area. We have a series of parking lots, and these parking lots allow for large events beyond just school usage. And this will allow for major events in the arena, major events in the new football field. The new football field will be, and basically this building is being built inside in the old football field. And so it's positioned in such a way so it can be built without disturbing the existing high school. And so we're going to be able to see the high school students be able to use the high school completely through the entire construction. And then the move in over the summer, we'll do the interconnections to the rec center and to the science wing. And then you can see there's a new football stadium, which will be farther back. And then you see a series of new baseball and softball fields that go toward Warrensville. We're now looking at some modifications of this, not what we're putting in it, but we might readdress the parking lot. And then also we're looking at a lot of options now for the bus garage. In this site plan, we still show the bus garage, but in all likelihood, we won't have the bus garage there, and that'll allow for more green space. And then you can see we're going to eliminate that connecting road that's below the middle school, if you see MS, and we're going to make that into a landscape areas that will become a buffer between the apartments and the new school building. And that's what we're working with the Planning Commission and the Building Department. And they've been very, very, very accommodating to us.
Steve,
yes, please.
I got a question. Do you want to talk about possible the middle school and maybe some options to vacate the middle school earlier?
Yes.
So that we
Actually,
can start?
That's really exciting. We had a very good meeting today. As you know, the way we were building this is the middle school will stay in operations through the entire construction of the new high school, middle school, which means then we have to move in to the new building and then build the football field, the football stadiums and ball fields. One of the questions that was asked, that puts us in that basically means that we will have no football stadium when we open this building. We're now looking at, there is the possibility of maybe not this year, but the following year, of using the 3 existing elementary schools and move the middle school students out of their building. This way we could demolish it and we could have all the fields and the new football stadium ready for the beginning of the school year. And so we're investigating that right now, and that would be a great benefit to the community. We would literally have this stadium and fields done a year sooner than what was originally anticipated. And that would be great. So this way, that when the students move into the high school and middle school, the football field will be complete. So we are investigating that. I'm not making any promises yet today until we do a thorough investigation, but it's a great concept. And it really would help us in terms of building everything all at once, as opposed to the phases that we originally had.
Right. So in essence, it would just be 1 year for the middle school. We would have to separate the middle school for 1 year. So we might use Eastwood for 6th grade, John Dewey for 7th grade, Westwood for 8th grade. I don't know. Just spread the kids out for 1 year while they tear down the middle school and build the new high school. It'll be the 21-22 school year. At the conclusion of the 22 school year, the building will be ready.
Right.
So at the start of the 22-23 school year, everybody move into the high school.
And all support facilities would be done.
And everything will be done. Instead of everything being done in 23, we can have everything done in 22. So we'll do the investigation, do all the things we need to do, and it give us another year to make decisions about those buildings too. So we'll keep those buildings in operation for an additional year, which will give us more time. The COVID situation kind of stalled some of our process with that. And that'll give us more time to go through the process to determine what happens to the 3 schools.
I'm very excited about it because it would be wonderful to have the whole campus done in the 22-23 school year. So we're not waiting a whole nother year to get the football fields, the baseball fields, and all of that done. The students would have full use of it when they move into that new building, which would be exciting, very exciting. To kind of walk you through the floor plans, Don, if you could go through this. As you can see, and I know this is maybe hard for some of you on your computers, but as you can see, it's color coded. And let's start at the top. At the top, you see where the existing rec center is, and then you see the new high school. Everything in purple is the high school, and that light blue is the administrative areas for the high school. And that section of the building is 3 stories. And as you enter in there, you can go right to all the different high school pieces. Then to the south of that is, as you can see, the yellow are our new arena and then also middle school gym. And in the orange are the support spaces that are common to both schools. So you see in the middle, that very large open area, that will be a combined cafeteria, seating, but also for events, the seating that can all be taken out, and it can be a large lobby for large events or large multi-uses. So we could literally have both gyms running and the auditorium running and having great civic events. And then below that is, as you can see, as you go across there in the orange, below is at that large space at the bottom is the middle school cafeteria. So you can see we're not mixing any of the middle school students with the high school students, even for eating. They are separated. And then as you go to the right of that, you see the gray area and the blue area. The gray area is the new middle school, and the blue area is the existing science wing, which we're saving. And you can see it'll be combined into the middle school. So on the first floor, and then if you look at the other, in the center section by the 2 stadiums, we put all the support spaces for athletics there. So they work both for the stadium and they work for both they can also be used for the gyms. And this really helps us in terms of operations, that you're not spread out on all the uses for athletics itself. So that kind of gives you, and you can see then there's a connector at the top to the new to the existing rec center, so that has a use. When you get to the second floor, as you can see, the middle section is just basically roofs, but they're high roofs because those are high spaces. And then you still see the upper sections of the 2 gymnasiums in the center. And then to the right, as you see in that gray blue area, that's the second floor of the middle school. And we're saving things such as existing elevator or stairs. That science wing has really helped us out. And then if you see at the top of the page, you'll see the high school. And the high school, you can see there's a white area in the center. That's like an atrium space with stepped seating and stairs that allows you to go between the 2 floors, and becomes then also one of our extended learning areas. And you can see how it's worked out. We have extended learning areas in the centers and then classrooms around the sides. And we also have in the middle school also extended learning areas that are centralized to each set of rooms. And then as you go up 1 more floor, the 3rd floor, there's the top floor of the high school. And again, it's broken up into two sections with 2 extended learning areas, 1 north, 1 south, and then a series of classrooms that open off into those. And it's a very efficient plan. Now, I will tell you, it was a very difficult, it looks very efficient. The architects had to go through a lot of gyrations because remember, we have to save that existing science wing that's required by the state, and we're saving our existing rec center. So we have to fit these 2 pieces. And I think the architects did a really excellent job with a pretty exciting building of laying out this building in such an efficient way, yet still we get the great separation between its two separate schools. And secondly, we've got all these great community spaces, which are all right in the front and can be used for great community events. And then we have the high school, which sits at the top, which then is geared toward that rec center. And that kind of walks us through. Are there any questions before I go into our budget and where we're at on the project? All right, I'll keep us going. The project is on budget. We're really pleased to say the project budget is $65,500,000. The current schematic design estimate is $65,171,000. We still are developing some alternates, just like we did on the other project. So if we get some bid savings, we may do some enhancements, but we haven't had to do a lot compared to the other project. Fortunately, the marketplace is really great right now in terms of pricing. It's much more competitive because there isn't as much construction going on today. Unfortunately, due to COVID, has been fortunate for us in terms of we're buying a lot more building than we originally anticipated. So we're really excited about that. If you go to the next slide, Don, let me talk about the project schedule, and that's why we wanted to get you up to speed a bit on this. Is first of all, the schematic design is still being finalized, and we simultaneously are continuing with now what we call design development, and that will run until mid-October. And that means that what we're trying to do, which is a little different than what we did on the elementary, we would like to do an early site package, what we call a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price, for an early site package. And we'd like to make that request at your next meeting on August 19th. Why do we want to be doing that? One of the things that we found that was really difficult when we worked on the other project is we started the site work in the spring, and unfortunately our springs are becoming wetter and wetter and wetter. And also we found unforeseen conditions, and it really had an effect on our schedule. We really want to get ahead of ourselves. And so we'd like to do this early site package, and I'll kind of go through what that early site package is, but it is not the foundations. It's basically tearing down the existing stadium, and then it's getting what we call the building pad ready. That is making sure, and we do this building pad, we actually put concrete on top of it, so we don't have to deal with a site that's covered with water. And so it really gets us ready, and we also do utilities, and I'll go through that in a moment. So we're in the process of having that site package reviewed by the Planning Commission. We're not going in front of the Planning Commission next week, but we're going to do a special meeting as we're working out some of the details of that. We will continue doing construction documents, and we will have an actual GMP for the entire building. Won't be requested until next February, but this gets us ahead of the curve in terms of doing this early site package now. And Don, if you could go to the next thing, let me give you what we're going to ask for, and this will be in 2 weeks, and we will submit more documentation of what that is. The early site package has an estimated contract sum about $3 million. And like on the other projects, it's called a guaranteed maximum price. Infinity Construction will guarantee the price. Any savings through bidding will then return to us. And again, the scope of work is the demolition of the existing football stadium and the associated ball fields. We're going to do utility relocation. We're actually putting in new additional utilities because we can't cut the utilities to the existing high school. We're actually going to relocate new utilities so we're all ready for the new high school and middle school. And so that includes things such as having main electrical underground, the sanitary and storm sewers also all prepared and ready for us. And then the last item is putting up the building pad and doing the site logistics, which is having the trailers up, lay down areas, similar to what you see. Now, this site will be completely fenced off from the existing middle school and the existing high school. So there will be no no students, no faculty, no one from the school district will be able to go onto the construction site, and they'll be completely protected by these fences. And all the access will be all from Northfield for the existing high school, and so it can continue on as a high school. And all the access, the existing access that we have from Warrensville will be for the middle school. We will have a separate drive set up for construction, which will be independent of all the uses of the school. And that kind of gives you a sense, and we just wanted to make sure you were aware. We don't like to come to front of you and here. Maybe Sean, I can ask Sean, he can kind of walk you through what we're talking about in terms of setting up the site. Sean, would you like to comment on
Oh,
this?
sure, I would love to comment. So this is the most I've been quiet all day, so it felt good to listen to someone else talk today, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, just always a pleasure to be here and present. Very excited because I'm going to be moving dirt soon. So what I want to show you is, if you look, and I don't have control of the screen, but the darker gray is the outline of the new building. And that is going right on the location of the existing football field and track area. So, you know, Steve talked about, that'll be our first item of demolition, will be those components. As you can see, we're tight up against the backside of the existing high school. So we will maintain fence lines. I'm working with the fire department on means of egress and such, so we can maintain that for life safety factors for students in the existing high school. Again, Steve alluded to is that there'll be zero construction traffic off of Northfield Road during our construction process. So you see the location of the building pad. What Steve did talk about is that we are going to be very independent from your activities for your high school and also your middle school. I will fence around the middle school and I will block off fence from the high school. What's shown there is we're going to cut in a drive off of Warrensville Center Road. And so that's a dual drive that will be accessed to the, I have 150, anticipate 150 vehicles that we anticipate a construction traffic. Just to give you an idea, we're going to have about 175 concrete trucks that'll come in and place concrete during the course of the building. I'll probably have 50 to 70 or 50-foot flatbed trailers with structural steel on them. All our activities, all our access will come in from that access road. It's a 50-foot wide access road, and it'll be two-way traffic. So you'll come into the site from the top, Doug, as you're looking at that, and then the parking lot right below it, that's where the construction workers would park. Below that is our unloading zone and laydown area. And we have an access road around the building that we're doing so we can access everything. And then to south of that is our trailer park. We'll have about 8 trailers from the various trades, including Infinity staff. So the beauty of what we're doing here is that we're putting in place all the site logistics components. And as Steve said, it gets you a jump on your earthwork side of the equation. And we're not anticipating uncovering any unknowns, but if we do, it gives us time to deal with them this year. And with the goal is that when we bid the work in January, February of 21, and we award in March, I can award and I can be digging concrete and doing footings immediately, because all my logistics, all my components to access the site, lay down areas and start the work will be in place. Utility relocation, Steve talked about. We got one transformer that will relocate for the football facility, and we're going to use that for temporary power. And he did indicate other utilities on storm and sanitary that we will do. But again, what I want to relate to the board to ensure their comfort in what we're proceeding on is that we have no intentions of impacting the operation of the existing high school. No construction traffic will be on Northfield Road, and no construction traffic will interfere with the middle school and its operation. And that's what we're doing to set this thing up. So we'll use the land in between there. It's about 30 acres of land that that will be reappropriating to be ready to build this building come spring of 21.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation. We'd like to open it up to questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. Board members, are there any questions for anyone this evening? All right, it doesn't seem to be any. I do want to thank you all for joining us. This was a very thorough presentation, and thank you also for sending us information ahead of time, giving us a chance to take a look at the documents prior to this evening's meeting.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And just want to say thank you for the diligence and hard work. 1.5 to 1.8 million, that's pretty significant savings. Definitely will be able to apply that to phase 2. So looking forward to continuing to see the great work you guys are doing. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure. Real pleasure.
All right.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Have a
Everybody
good night.
evening.
Stay safe,
Thank you.
everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda, we need a motion on the floor for consent for approval for superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs for item 2.1, the resolution for the 2020-2021 Warrensville High City School District Remote Learning Plan, 2.2, the revised school calendar, and the new addition for tonight, item 2.3, return to level 2 sports. So once we pass them, get the motion on the floor, we will then open the floor for discussion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we accept items 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 under the superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, the floor is now open for discussion. I'm gonna go in order of what I see. So Mimi's first, then there's Ray, I see Earl, and then it will be Barbara. So
Ms.
Mimi, if you
Ms.
have,
Mitchell,
yes,
can Dr. Kevin and I, we'd like to present.
okay, that's
Um,
fine. I just want to see if there were questions first, because we have had the info. So go ahead and present.
Yeah, so we, no, this is for the public and for the board. I know we provided you the documents early, but I just wanted, before we came up with this resolution, wanted the community to know, the board to know that we taken every consideration in place before making a recommendation to the board to start the school year, the first quarter remote. As you know, through this process since May, or really since March, we've been preparing to return to school. We've purchased 60,000 masks, we've purchased desk guards, we've purchased thermal thermometers, we've met with all our different stakeholders. We've developed a plan which we presented last week, which we believe will sanitize and take care of all our staff and students. And then Thursday, the Cuyahoga County Board of Health sent a recommendation that all schools start remotely. Upon that, during that process and time, we were polling our parents. In our presentation today, it would show that 45% of our parents wanted their kids to return to school, which we took very seriously. And tried to figure out a way to bring our students back, in spite of the recommendation from the state. I mean, not from the state, but from the county. It is a very hard to come to this resolution at this time and recommendation to the board because we believe that our students learn better in school. We believe that face-to-face is the best way, and the way that our district has improved is the way that our kids learn the best. But in that process, we had to weigh the safety factors for our students, weigh the safety factors for our staff, and listen to the science, in which the science is the Collier County Board of Health, which has indicated that they don't think it's time for students to return to school. In a call last week, they shared that they were not confident they had enough tests for students, say if it was an outbreak and so forth. And all those things had weighed hard on us. We also reached out to all the community, not to some key daycares. We reached out to the YMCA and to see, well, how can we partner? What can we do? And we'll continue that process on how we can help our families who need childcare and who need somewhere for their student to go. How can we support that? And in that process, we found out that there are some laws and things where vouchers don't pay for school-age kids and so forth. So weighing all that, we come today and with a troubled heart. I mean, my heart is very saddened because I believe schools should open, but also the science says at this time, it is not in the best interest of our community and students to come back at this time. We asking the board for that recommendation of first 9 weeks. But in the event the Collier County Board of Health at any time says that it's okay for us to come back, that we are allowed to come back as soon as possible. During this time out, we will be preparing for our comeback. We'll have all our desk guards, we'll have all our things in place, and we'll be ready. But we want to ensure that everybody's safe. And that's teachers, that's parents, that's everybody. And when the science, the Board of Health, the doctors there made that recommendation, I think it's best that we listen. So with that, I would like for Dr. Caver to show you how the remote learning would look in the first 9 weeks. Dr. Caver and her team have worked very hard, diligently to ensure that learning continues during this 9 weeks, that it's structured, that we learn from what happened in the spring, and that we make the necessary corrections. Also, in this process and over the next few weeks, we'll be announcing when we'll be distributing Chromebooks on an as-needed basis for families that need them. We'll be rolling out a plan to get the technology and things to the kids that need it the most. This year, we are going 6 to 12 one by one, so all students in grades 6 to 12 will have their own personal computer. And then in K-5, on an as-needed basis, we will provide parents with the necessary resources. So with that, I'm gonna pull up the plan. Dr. Caver will eloquently share with you, ask any questions you might have about the remote plan. This plan has been vetted with teachers, it's been vetted with administrators, so this is not a plan just made up by the curriculum department. It's been shared with numerous different groups, and I believe it's one of the best plans that I've seen moving forward. So with that, let me pull it up, and we will get started. Uh-oh. I don't see it though. All right, well, I'm start from the beginning. All right, here we go.
Good evening, everyone.
I'm gonna ask the computer to calm down. she
Thank
gets
you, Mr.
started.
Jolly.
All right, I'm asking the computer to calm down. Okay, here we go.
All right, as Mr. Jolly shared, we did survey our families and asked them to commit to either virtual or in-person instruction. And as he already stated, as you can see from this report, about 55% of our parents that responded out of 1,100 had already decided that they wanted to have remote learning. And so with that, we have devised this plan that he said was vetted through administrators, central office, as well as our teaching staff. And this is what we have come up with. First of all, our goal is to make sure that we're still providing a high quality education to our scholars. And as Mr. Jolly has already stated, we have already learned from what we implemented in the spring, have made some adjustments. And then we're going to try to implement this plan to make sure that we focus on the most essential learning this first 9 weeks during the remote learning. Some of the essentials of the plan require that our teachers come to their classrooms and teach from the room. They will make sure, this way we can make sure that they have the appropriate internet access, that they have the technology resources they need, that all of their supplies are in their classroom, and so they will have the resources. We are using Google Classroom as our platform, and so we will have training for our parents and our staff members about Google Classroom and how to utilize it and see their assignments and things of that nature. Live lessons will be utilized through Zoom or Google Meets, and so all of the lessons for our students will be live. We are considering having some career tech, special education, and or preschool students attending in person or getting some related services in person, such as the OT or PT or speech services. But again, those things have not been determined as of yet. As of right now, everything would be fully remote. But again, those are things that we may come back to you with in terms of, are there particular areas that we need to reconsider how they get their services delivered even during this first 9 weeks? You want to comment?
I'd like to comment because we did send our return to learn plan to the Department of Health. So at this time, the Department of Health is reviewing our return to learn plan. Also, the other schools in our consortium, Cleveland Heights, Bedford, Shaker, and Maple, we're all working together to see how we can bring CTE back some kind of way. Some of the CTE is hands-on. There's no other way to do it. You cannot do it virtually. So that process with preschools and some of our high incidence special ed students, we're consulting with the Board of Health to see if there's any way that we can bring them in.
Okay. And then another essential is that we want to start classes the first day of class for students on August 31st in order to allow some additional time for professional development and preparation. So as I already mentioned, we were already looking at having live lessons through Google Meets or Zoom. And so we are looking at synchronous learning, live, real-time instruction. The only difference is that the children will be at home or in remote locations versus inside of the classrooms with our teachers. And what you'll see is with these, with Google Classrooms or with Zoom, you can have small group breakout rooms. There's an opportunity for discussions, questions and answers, think alouds. They will basically be able to get immediate feedback from their peers and the teacher. And so these are the reasons that we are recommending that the learning is live every day, 5 days a week. So these are the essentials of what we are asking for in our full remote learning plan. Wanted to talk about attendance and grading. So again, scholars are required to attend live instruction daily. Attendance will be recorded in Infinite Campus. And so we are working with the People Services Department about how that will look in the scheduling to make sure that we can indefinitely record the attendance there. And then we also have a policy in place to address attendance issues as they arise with our scholars if they're not attending or participating in the live lessons. We are also proposing that they have a traditional grades. And so all assigned work will be used for course grades. So we're not proposing a pass fail or changing our grading policy for the virtual learning. Next, I want to give you a sample of the secondary schedule. So I just want to remind you that we are designing these schedules in order to make sure that the students receive credit and instruction in all of their classes. And that's particularly important at the secondary level because they are getting their high school credits. So we want to make sure that they have instruction in all of their classes. Live instruction in all of their classes so that they can review all the content or cover all the content that's needed in their courses. And so in order to do that, we have decided to implement a block schedule. And the reason we're doing a block schedule is because as you all are aware, the high school has 10 periods a day. So if a scholar has to follow their exact schedule in a day, they would be moving classes every 50 minutes. They would be online all day long, and then they would be sitting there trying to focus on all that content that was just given to them virtually. And so what we have decided was to reduce the number of courses that they have to think about on any given day and try to reduce that to 3 to 4 classes per day to try to help the scholars through this remote learning process. And so what that looks like is on the next slide in an alternating schedule. So this is a sample of the middle school block schedule, and this would be what we would call a blue week. So we would have blue weeks or gold weeks. And so during the blue week, as you can see on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, scholars would attend their classes that are periods 1 through 4. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, they would attend their classes that are periods 5 through 11. So essentially, every day of the week, they only go to class live for 4 of their required periods. However, they stay in them for a longer period of time. And then on the next slide, you'll see that the gold week is the opposite. So that over a 2-week period, it evens out with the number of the instructional time that you have received for all of your courses. And so let's move on to the elementary schedule. For the elementary, we have also divided them we're going by the research of looking at the amount of instructional time or live sessions, live instructional time that you should have with children and them being a little bit younger. We look at a day of 8 to 3 being online continuously. It's not in the best interest of the children based on the research that we've seen. So we've decided to divide their homerooms into 2 smaller groups. And then the smaller groups will also allow for more individualized instruction and feedback as a teacher is trying to speak with their scholars. So there's an AM and a PM session that's offered, and it looks like this on the next slide. So if a teacher has a classroom of 28 students or 20 students, they will divide them into an AM session and a PM session. And so if you are part of the AM group, you would attend live lessons from 9 to 12:05. If you are part of the PM group, you would not log on for live sessions until 12:45. So 12:45 to 3:45. We've also made it so that everybody in K-5 have lunch at the same time because obviously they're having lunch in their homes or wherever it is that they're located. And this will also allow us to be able to have meal delivery service during this time for our scholars that qualify in the district. So this is what a sample schedule would look like for kindergarten. Basically, foundations is their phonics instruction that we would have, then their reading, additional reading. Encore, so we have built Encore until that time, and that's their their PE, music, art, those types of things. They'll have math, and then they'll have science or social studies instruction, and that alternates. We're also providing academic support services during this time. So there's intervention time provided in the schedules, as you already seen. We still have intervention teachers and tutors to assist virtually with our scholars. We will still have supplemental learning platforms such as our iReady in grades K through 8 that we implement and have implemented since we or purchased since we've been here. Also just support with our school counselors and other social emotional learning support staff. Again, such as our counselors, social worker, culture coaches, and things of that nature, school psychologists. Additional services that we will provide for families on the next slide include meal distribution that we just talked about. 5 days a week, we will make sure that the scholars get their meals. We will develop what that plan looks like, but it will be between the hours of 11 and 1 for the distribution. We're also exploring the possibility of having a pickup site such as the high school at the same exact time, as there may be some families that don't want to wait and meet the bus at a specific time and location when we deliver, but they may want to just drive through on their own. For parent support, they will, as I stated before, have access to the school counselors and the support staff, but we're also implementing a parent university. So the same way that we're asking for professional development time for our teachers, we would start off the school year with technology training sessions for our parents that will be held virtually as well. And we plan to have their own Google Classroom so that they can go back and refer to some of these training sessions, such as how do I get on Google Classroom? How do I check my students' assignments? How do I look at their grades and attendance in IC? So we will record the sessions and make sure that they're up as well. And we plan to continue this as long as we see a need for sessions to be posted for our parents. In order for all of this to happen, again, there's a school calendar adjustment that needs to be made, and we're asking for your vote on that this evening. Convocation would still begin on August 21st. All of our staff members will return as normal on Convocation Day. However, the Teacher Professional Development Week of August 24th through 28th would be for 5 days. And then we would start our actual remote learning instruction on August 31st. The other adjustment is that we do not see a need for a fall break in the calendar if we are moving the instructional time back, the start of the instructional time. Some of the things that we will work on or have professional development on that week will include PBIS, collaboration time for the teachers. We will have virtual open house during that week for our families. There will be building staff meetings, the parent university I already talked about. And then of course, the primary one is the technology training for our teachers. Another adjustment that's going to need to be made has to do with the student handbook. So we're looking for some addendums to the handbook that has to do with remote learning, as well as some other areas of discipline or expectations, I should say, not discipline, for when scholars do return back to the school buildings. So we will be bringing those to you. We don't have those this evening, but we will be bringing those policies to you for the student handbook that has to do with language on face coverings, virtual learning environment expectations, attendance expectations for virtual learning, and alternatives to suspension. So that should be on the board agenda for August 19th.
Yeah, so we do need the board. This is the policy that we need support with these plans. So we will work together to come up with what our recommendations is, and we do need the board to review these policies as soon as possible.
And so that concludes our presentation. And at this time, we'll open up the floor for questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Caver and Mr. Jolly. Thank you for reminding me that we had the presentation first. I don't know why I forgot about that. Is there anything that you wanted to close out with before we open the floor to the board for questions?
Well, I just appreciate the board allowing us more time to vet out what the options were. We really took this very serious. We really wanted to find a way to get back safely. And later we're going to talk about sports. Sports and bringing back 700-800 kids is much different. Sports numbers are lower. We've been doing it since June. This decision is more detailed. It has more moving parts, more opportunities for us to stumble, and that's what we don't want to do, is stumble at this time. So we are just requesting in this request the first 9 weeks to see how numbers look, see how the community numbers are, and I believe if everyone does their part, that we should be ready to go in November. With that, there's an opportunity for our students to go right into the new school, which is a great opportunity for our younger students. And I just want everybody to know this is a very hard recommendation. And to know that we want everybody back in school. But in this situation, this is where we are. So that's it's hard. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I can understand. Board, I'm sure there's questions, thoughts, comments. I'll start with Mimi. You're the first I see on the screen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really don't have a lot of questions. I am going to say thank you, Mr. Jolly, to you and your team. I think we all know that this was not an easy decision for you. Some of the questions that I had going into this, you addressed. I know that there were some concerns with how we had to close the school year out, and you addressed that with your focus on the most essential learning, I think is the way you referred to it. The attendance concerns, there is a policy I will share with you. Neola just came out with a revised policy that addresses attendance that might help you guys as you're looking at some of the concerns with attendance. Same thing with the face mask. There is a policy out there on face masks that you can find on board docs. The other thing that I was concerned with was the student code of conduct, and you guys addressed that as well. Again, I know we can't stress enough. We understand your pain. I think we all feel the same. We would love to have the students back in school, but it really does come back to the safety and wellness of the students, the staff, and the community, because we don't want to be the center of an outbreak for the community by bringing the students back prematurely. So that really is all that I have to say. And just thank you and your team.
Thank you. Barbara, I see you're there. Did you have any questions? And you're on mute.
I actually don't have any question, but I'm gonna be an advocate for a working parent. And I'm also gonna be an advocate for pre-K through second grade. And the reason why I'm saying that because they are so dear to my heart, and I want to make sure that we are able to meet their need. Now, we know we have some young parents that's going to be working. Who's going to monitor those kids? Who's going to make sure that these kids are learning? How do we guarantee that? How do we do that? And then I'm looking at Mr. Jolly, and I'm thinking about, if we're looking at 45%, we're looking at class size. I don't know how many pre-K or pre-K through second grade. I don't know how many of these parents are in the 45%. I really don't know that. I would like to learn that, because I would like for you and Dr. Caver to look at an alternative for working parents. you know, this is really hard for me because I just worry about that part of it. Or how can we guarantee that these young kids, these young children are going to be learning at home? And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to support the recommendation because I know you have done your homework. I know you're not going to put any child at risk. I believe Dr. Reynolds has everything in the school in place for children. I can do the 9 weeks. I have no problem with doing 9 weeks, but I don't want to see it. I don't want it to be any longer than that. I really don't, because our children are missing out on their education. They have a right to learn. And if you're telling me a parent that has to be at work to support her family, between supporting her family and monitoring her kid, she's going to choose supporting the family. And we can't get angry with that. So I want Dr. Caver to actually, if a parent call her and say, I can't monitor, can she put something in place that someone can go out to help?
So Ms. Newman, everything you're saying, we feel the same way. We're looking at evening hours. So we're looking at having teachers available evening hours. We're also
Okay.
looking at, because that's what the parents told us. A lot of parents told us that in the focus group, saying that,
Okay.
no, they got to work during the day and they can help their kid at night. So we're looking at that. You know, my sister is a single parent. I totally understand. And this has been the most hardest decision I ever made professionally. You know, weighing the pros and the cons
Mhm.
has been hard because it's a lot of pros to come back. It's a lot of cons to not come back. It's a lot. Ultimately, you know, I understand, and we're gonna do everything that we can. We're gonna partner with the YMCA. We got a meeting with them on Friday. We're trying to have something so that the parents have somewhere to go, and then we can support them as a district. So if they're at the YMCA or they, you know, renting a facility from us, or I don't know how it's gonna work, but we're trying to explore every option to make it happen. So that if a parent got to send their kids somewhere, then they got somebody who know them there to help them.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly. Earl, I'll go to you next to see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Caver for the excellent presentation that she gave, in addition to like this great remote learning plan that her and her curriculum staff have put together. We know was a lot of challenges. We know that formally there was, you know, a hybrid plan, but based upon the information that we got from the Board of Health, we had to go, you know, with this total remote recommendation. So I want to first acknowledge the great job that her and her team have done with this. But with that, I do have just a few questions, just 2 or 3 questions. You spoke of the parent university. Could you kind of elaborate on the picture of how that will look, the technology that will be involved and the like to educate the parents?
Yes. So for instance, we would have a Zoom session or a Google Meet session, very similar to what we're having right here, right now. And we would present to them we would provide a professional development session for a parent to go. So we could actually, the same way Mr. Jolly is sharing his screen, like I could share my screen and demonstrate to a parent how to go onto Google Meets, what it looks like, how to find their child's Google Classroom. So just by sharing our screen or having a PowerPoint presentation already made up, we can have a session where we would be able to provide an opportunity to show parents what it is that, give them some resources that would help them. And then of course we could also ask questions or answer questions, allow them to ask questions, and we could answer those questions for them at that time also. So it would be live sessions that we would hold or host at different times of the day, more than likely in the evening for our parents. And we're hoping to start that towards the end of August,
All
before
right.
the live sessions start with the students.
All right, thank you for that. And I also did notice that you mentioned that you have a proposal, with the Board of Health about the special ed, career tech and the preschoolers. But absent their approval to bring, especially the preschoolers, I'm going to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Barbara spoke on. What would if it is, we don't get approval from the board to actually bring them in, and we go remote learning with the preschoolers, what would a preschooler's day look like remotely?
Yeah, so that part of it, we're still working on. It's a little bit different. So the schedule that we proposed to you today said K to 5. And that was intentional because pre-K is a little bit different. So in the past, there were some recorded lessons. When you're talking about a 4-year-old, you're not looking at three hours online,
Right.
listening to the teacher for that time frame. So those are partially the reasons we're considering considering how can pre-K come in. Pre-K may also end up being half-day sessions if they do come in. So there are a lot of variations to pre-K that we are considering. But definitely, it would definitely look like if it definitely had to be virtual, it will be some recorded sessions, it will be some breaks, there will be some things that obviously we know the parent can go on later on in the day with their child and look at. But they would definitely be a whole totally different schedule. And we didn't present that today intentionally.
So I do want to share what a concern is though. So we don't have in-person pre-K. The daycares for pre-K students are taking students.
Okay.
So you as a working parent will leave and go. I mean, a lot of them going to enroll their kid in the pre-K that's taking students in person and for the hours that they need. So I say this because we might end up with no pre-K students, because me as a parent or as a single parent, as Ms. Moomin said, I need somebody that's going to take my kid. So now the state is opening up the regulations on the pre-K so they can take more on preschool, so they can take more kids. So I say this is as a district, in thinking this through, it's in our best interest if we could bring pre-K to bring them, because in the long run, it's job security for people. Because if we don't have any students, we don't have any. We don't. So as we think through this process, we are thinking about our staff, and students drive our workforce. Without students, we don't need as many people in the workforce.
Right.
So as we think about pre-K and all these different things, safely opening up a pre-K, and I'm not saying we're going to open up pre-K. I'm not saying we're going to recommend that. But what I'm saying is that all these things have to be considered. And as a parent, and you had an opportunity to send your kid to a pre-K that's open, you probably will, because your kid can get service for a full day while you go to work. So those are things that I hope people are considering and listening to, because it's a lot to go with it. We are a student-driven business. Without students, then we don't need adults. And that's a concern of mine, because I believe we have a great workforce. But it's very difficult to substantiate keeping people when we don't have students in the seat or enrolled in the seat. We're down almost 60 students in pre-K right now. We're down 100 in kindergarten right now. That is a concern. And I know that everyone is worried about safety and so forth, but then you also know that it has to be students in order for us to sustain what we're doing. So I just wanted to put that out there, because the pre-K question, there's competition for the pre-K students, and the parents have a lot of options with those students.
All right, thank you. Earl, did you have a final question, or can we move to Ray?
Please, you can move on to Ray. Thank you, Mr. Jolly and Dr. Kaver, for your responses and your time.
Thank you so much. Ray, your questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, guys.
Echo.
I want to thank you, Dr. Caver. Oh, let me do this.
We can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Yep.
I want to thank you, Dr. Caver, for putting this together. I want to thank you, Mr. Jolly, for putting this together. This is the hardest decision for this board and many public schools across America. So the 90,000 public schools are going through what we're going through as a board. I've listened to Texas. I've listened to Georgia. I think what we put together is a trial and error. There's no actual answer to how to bring these children back. But we have to look at the safety of the children and our staff and our educators. So I want to just tell this board, we have to do what's in the best interest to actually protect our scholars and our staff. So we would have to go this remote learning for 9 weeks or however long, but we have to protect them and we want them to learn too. So whatever we need to do to accommodate and meet them where they're at, we're gonna have to do it as a district and as a board. So I wanna thank Mr. Jolly for his creative ideals. I wanna thank Dr. Caver and Dr. Reynolds for coming up with a plan to help our scholars learn in this time in America. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ray. I think everybody has, echoed the same feelings, concerns that we've all felt. We're all parents, we're all community members, we're all dealing with this in a variety of ways. And it was probably one of the hardest decisions, hardest conversations, hardest thinking processes I've ever been through in my adult life. So I cannot even begin to imagine what Mr. Jolly, Dr. Caver, Dr. Reynolds, and your team, what you've gone through. So thank you for the diligence. I've talked to many school board members across our region, and we're all in the same place, trying to make the absolute right decision for all parties involved. The one question that I do have, and I'm sure your team will be looking at this once final approval is made on the return to school plan for the first 9 weeks and perhaps even beyond. I know we will have a location on our school district website that will provide a link for parents to go in and review, so they'll have complete understanding of what's happening, what additions are being made to the student handbook, everything that's going to be impacting their child in the first 9 weeks with the remote learning and after we return to school, that it will be readily available in an online environment, that we will probably need to do some push via our social media channels to push people back to those documents on our district website.
Yes, ma'am. So what we'll do is have Ms. Palace, we'll have her update our COVID section of our website with these new plans. We also, Dr. Reynolds will be like the switchboard for all questions about the return. So we will direct calls to him so he can answer questions about that. So we'll have all that in place by Friday.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion.
I do have one more discussion.
I want to ask on this topic, are we ready to move to 2.2, the school calendar, and then 2.3, the revised return to level 2 sports? I just want to make sure we were done with 2.1 first, Mr. Jolly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So I think we are. So you want to go ahead and move into 2.2 and 2.3?
Yes, the calendar, Dr. Caver already shared the calendar. We're simply just changing the start date from the 26th to the 31st and allowing the week of the 24th to 28th to be professional development for our staff. And that's indicated on the calendar that you see now. And the next one is, and I don't have a printout for that, but it's about athletics, the restart of athletics. I did send a memo kind of late. And I've been working with Cleveland Heights and Maple Heights on the restart. We all are part of the LEL. So in June 15th, the state allows schools to start back with practicing for the fall sports. So our team started June 15th. And we've had a very good track record. We haven't had any cases of COVID. Our coaches have went through all the safety protocols. Our students have been actively engaged in the process. They do the checks, the checks before they come, masks before they come into the rec center or high school. They're outside. Our middle school and high school have been actively participating. On last week, when the recommendation came down from the county, we suspended it because we wanted the opportunity to review and talk about it. And as a collective first ring, we all had discussions about how to move forward. So my recommendation today, Maple, I just went forward to restart sports. Cleveland Heights is restarting sports. All the Catholic schools are continuing with sports. My recommendation is that we continue sports at level 2. Level 2 is no competition. It's basically they're working out. In football, they'll be practicing. They will not be able to play any games at all until the governor allows them to play games. But this allows our students to train, to continue to work together. It aligns with the guidance from the County Board of Health, because they did say that the Ohio, if we follow the Ohio Board of Health, as long as we followed that, we were in compliance. We haven't seen any spread of COVID through athletics. It aligns with our message on remote learning, because with remote learning, we saying that education continues. So they are continuing education. So we view that as an opportunity. The social and emotional aspect of our students is very concerning to me. Without them having opportunities and outlets, this provides a large group of students an outlet and opportunity. Our band and other important students or activities the students participate in to continue. So what I want the board to consider is allowing them to continue to restart the sports. I did it without board approval, just based on the recommendations and just getting our foot under us. But in consulting with other districts, consulting with Coach Swift, looking at our track record internally, looking at our coaches going through all the safety protocols, I'm not having any type of outbreak in our district. My recommendation is that we approve our kids get start sports starting back. If there is an outbreak or something, then we would take the necessary steps to shut down and move forward. But it's been going well, and I think it will continue to go well. So that's where we are. Did give you the memo. That memo was created by Cleveland Heights and in collaboration with all of us. And it explains in detail all the factors that's engaged in this decision.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jolly. I did have a chance to go through it before our meeting this evening, and it connects everything back to the OSHA websites for additional FAQs and clarity. And I know there's been a couple of local law firms that we're connected to their newsletters. They have sent some information out unsolicited about the return to sports at level 2. So thank you for the update. Thank you for the information. Board, are there questions, go ahead, Earl. You're on mute.
All right. Thank you once again, Mr. Jolly. When you're talking about the compliance with the Ohio Board of Health recommendations and their guidelines, do we have an individual or individuals who are strictly dedicated to ensure that our level 2 sports are in compliance, that are completely 100% familiar with all of the recommendations by the Board of Health and ensuring that we are complying?
Right, so Coach Swift is that person. Athletic Director Swift is that person. He's in service, all his coaches on there. All the practices are during the time where Coach Swift is present, and he's there except for like 2 weeks ago when he was on vacation. So Coach Swift is our administrator and that is responsible for athletics and the compliance there. They have logs that they keep every day, that they're monitoring temperatures, they're monitoring any symptoms that students are having, him and his coaches. So Coach Swift is that person.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jolly. That's all I had. That's all I had, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mimi.
I'm sorry, clarify for me. Are you saying we are only doing practicing, right? They're not going to be competing? That's what level 2 is, right?
Right, at this time, there's no competition at this time. Now, volleyball might come up to be competition if the state allows football, which you'll hear from Governor DeWine. He'll announce that it'll be football or so forth. Then we would have to come back together, or we allow them to play football, but they will start practicing. They cannot interact like in contact sports. They cannot scrimmage or any other school. Everything has to be internal at this time.
Okay.
Non-contact sports like golf, we don't have a golf. And volleyball can do school-to-school scrimmages because it's a non-contact sport. But the contact sports like football, basketball, right, is a contact sport. Those are the ones we have. Wrestling, they cannot participate with opponents. So right now we're on level 2, no competition. But the governor would change it, and once he changes it, those non-contact sports can participate in scrimmages and so forth. They are also moving the middle school season back. Coach Swift will give me more information, and as he gives it to me, I'll share with the board.
Okay, just for those who may not have had an opportunity to review the memo yet, it looks like football, the no scrimmages are permitted. School versus school contests will follow their normal OSHA permissible dates and regulations with a target date the week of Monday, August 24th. So from this document, it looks like we may go back into competition mode late August.
Right,
If I'm reading that correctly.
Right, only volleyball can compete. We don't have any other sports that can compete at this.
Right, at this time. I was just looking at letter D on that memo. Okay. All righty. If there are no further questions, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll on section 2? And you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's
Mr.
okay.
Roberts?
Hold
Yes.
up. Hold up 1 second. Mr. Jolly, I'm going to ask this question. I probably already know the answer to, but don't the athletes supposed to still wear masks?
So
they don't have to?
They wear masks in the gym to the locker room, but once they start competing, they don't have to wear them.
Oh, okay.
So they wear them. You got to have a mask to get into the gym or to the practice.
Okay.
But once you participate, you don't have to wear a mask.
Okay.
But when you're actively engaged in whatever the sport is.
Okay, because I've passed a school and the student was running, but they were running in a group, but none of them had on masks. So you're saying they don't have to?
Yeah, once
right?
they participate and start in whatever the activity, like the band, they can't wear a mask. You playing the instrument. Cheerleaders, they can't. Yeah, so that's the way it is. My son actually just playing AAU basketball right now.
Oh.
And They wear a mask to the gym, but once you get in the gym, it's no mask.
Okay.
Unless the parent makes them wear a mask.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Are there any further questions before we take the vote? Please call the roll, Dr. Rock.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Oh, there
Miss
he is.
Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board. And thank you again, Dr. Caver. Please share your thanks with the team, Mr. Jolly and Dr. Reynolds as well.
Right.
Next on our agenda is item 3, policies. We were to review and discuss, item 3.1, volume 38, number 2.
Okay, so I can go through the policies and share. There was not a lot of changes to the policies.
No, it
They
wasn't.
pretty much were
Excuse
standard.
me one
policies.
moment.
Oh.
If someone else is speaking, can we please put our mics on mute because our extra comments are coming through? Thank you.
So the board, I know the board had the opportunity to review the policies. There were some minor changes. I know that 5460.02 was approved on 6/24. That was the new graduation policy that we had to pass based on the pandemic. But as I go through 1520, we had to add some new positions on that. We added the data coach. We added, and that's the employment of administrators. We added the special education specialist and HR generalist. And those are 3 new positions that the district has started since our arrival to the district.
Madam Chair.
Please let Mr. Jolly finish speaking. Just give him a chance.
Okay, so on that one, any questions on that one?
No.
2, 4,
I do have a question on that one.
I'm sorry, I was coming back to you, Mimi.
I'm sorry, what you said.
Go. Go ahead. I wasn't
I'm
saying
sorry.
no to you.
The only question I wanted to ask on that one is because it's talking about employment of administrators. The executive assistants are considered administrators and I don't see them on the list. Can you explain how they fit in or should they be on the list?
So the executive assistants could be on the list. I know that before I came, there was a MOU written with them by Dr. Zodisi that kind of linked them with OPSI in a way where the raises and things were linked to OPSI, but they are not part of the union. And I believe we could add them as part of that. So I would add them on it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, 2464 is gifted education and identification. There was no additions to that one. That policy will remain the same. 3120 added to this list was psychologists, speech pathologists, and non-administrative personal staff. The selections made on this where it says the board would not employ, the selections made was applications for employment would not be accepted from any current board member if a board member wishes to buy. And this is all the same stuff as before. I don't think it's any new additions to this at all. We just had to check through what's already been done. There was a lot taken out of this one, but this is basically the same. 3120 is the same. The county put in, not the county, but all of the policy put in some new language and took out some language. And basically about substitutes, and substitute teachers whose license limits them to teach only one semester in a class will be approved by the board before the start of each semester. Employment of substitute teachers may be terminated when their services are no longer required. So that's centered around substitute teachers. In this situation, if we have to hire a substitute teacher due to a teacher not being able to work due to the pandemic, we are able to hire a substitute teacher in their place, and we don't have to keep them for the entire year, give them a contract, but once their services are done, then they are done in that situation. And that's the new language in 3120. 3120.05 is the same. There's really no changes to that. 3120.08. Basically, this one is around sports and the sports hiring people for sports, coaches and things that are in the point like part-time staff, people who work the games and so forth, without having no board approval. So that'd be like Mr. Merritt and other people like that who work the games without bringing them to the board. 3414 policy 4120. On this one, the collectively bargain people. This is about collectively bargain all our different people who are under our OC contract. So that's our secretaries, custodians, transportation workers, bookkeepers, library assistants, cafeteria workers, paraprofessionals, laborers, security guards, and our graphic or operator. We also need to put our technology coordinator, which is Jonathan. I got to get his proper title, but Jonathan is under OC2. And basically, we just giving approval to candidates. The board has to approve, they don't have to approve, but they can approve candidates recommended by the board. And all applications should be referred to the Human Resources Department. So all these are standard. This is what we've been doing a long time. We're gonna add Jonathan's position to that. 41208 basically is the same as the one we did before, just another group. 4124. Again, no changes to 4124. Basically, saying that classified staff who are employed in positions within the bargaining unit employment contracts and sequence will be determined in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in the collective bargaining agreement. So basically, we're following the contract that they have to follow the contract also. Drug and testing, again, we followed our same policies and procedures from the past, no changes at all. 5460, we approved 546002. So this 5460 is just in accordance to 506002. And basically what this does is just establish our high school graduation requirements. And they're changed in 2019. So just making sure that we're in accordance to that. Talks about the graduation seals. And I definitely would have Dr. Kaver and her team come do something about graduation seals because that's new in the upcoming months. 5602, we approved that already. And 6107 is a new one. And Dr. Rock, this is Dr. Rock's one about accepting and distributing electronic records and using electronic signatures. So this is a new COVID policy, basically saying that the board will accept electronic signatures and records instead of paper. So that's a general overview of all of them. There wasn't significant changes, anything groundbreaking, but we will be coming to you with the 4 we need moving forward. And then we just received volume 39-1. So we'll be bringing that to the table for more discussion relatively soon. Any questions or concerns at this point?
So I have one question, Mr. Jolly.
Yes.
If you could go back to 1520.
Okay.
The addition of the executive administrators.
Yes, executive assistants.
Assistants. Can you just, so they were a part of this before and then they were removed?
So they weren't ever part of it, I don't believe so, but they're not in the union at all. So they're not union members. They are administrative workers. So they don't fit in any policy because they're not in the union policies. You got OPSI policy, then you got WEA policy. So their fit is inside of the administrator policy.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity. Mimi, I think I saw your hand up.
Yep, I just wanted to get clarification on 3120, and I think it's also, it might be under 4120 also, but you refer to non-administrative professional staff. Who is non-professional, non-administrative professional staff? Is that like your teachers? Who are we referring to?
Yeah, those are teachers, non-administrative, anybody that's not a teacher.
Okay, so it's inclusive of teachers, guidance counselors, psychologists, the same people that were listed above?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then just a comment, there were several of the policies that we're adopting today that came about because of different changes with legislation. I believe 3120 was one of them. House Bill 491 and 216. So even though there wasn't a lot of changes that were made to the policy, it was based on legislation that was approved. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly. Thank you for going through this. So this is our first reading. We'll put it back on the agenda for August 19th, for our second reading. And then per Dr. Caver's comments, I believe that's volume 39, and I can't remember what number, we shall see in the August 19th meeting policies that are specifically related to COVID-19 and the impacts in the state of Ohio for our school districts. All righty. We are now at section 4. Mr. Jolly, I will turn the conversation over to you for discussion of COVID-19.
Yes, so I think we pretty much covered the COVID-19 in our remote plan today. What we will be doing next is rolling out the mobile lunch program. We'll be rolling out how we plan to support our scholars during this, during the first 9 weeks. So those are all things that we'll be working on and be ready to present to the board at our next meeting. In addition, we are still receiving all of the materials that we ordered, our desk shields. They should be here within a week. So we will set up our schools in preparation to go back to school as soon as possible. So our things are coming. We will be setting things up and getting ready. In that process, we will be having discussions with our unions to determine who will return or who will return to school once we get back. We will be going back to school, and we need to make sure that we're staffed accordingly to ensure that our students have teachers in front of them. I believe that we will have a great conversation, discussion, and we will accommodate and work on the best interests of all. So the COVID discussion today centered around our remote learning plan, the approval of our remote learning plan, and our preparation to return to school and our support for our students once we start school on August 31st. So we're in conversations with the YMCA. We will be talking to all our local child care centers because wherever our students at, we want to be able to provide them with support. So I will have more information to share at our 19th meeting. We probably will release how the lunch will go before that, how our mobile lunch and breakfast program will go before that. And other pertinent items our parents need to know as soon as possible.
Okay. Just so we're all on the same page, if I'm looking at the new calendar correctly, the end of the first marking period, that is the end of the first 9 weeks. So that is approximately October 30th. And when we would look to hear more from the Cuyahoga County Board of Health regarding next steps on either staying in a remote learning environment or moving into our our hybrid learning environment.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people are going to October 1st too. There, you know, some districts say they're going remote to October 1st.
Okay.
My wish, my request is that at any point, if the Board of Health say that we could go, that we prepare, give ourselves a week. I really want to get students in the schools as soon as possible.
Okay, that makes sense. All righty. Next on the agenda board is number 5 we added this evening. Just a real quick discussion of dates for our board governance retreat. Our facilitator, Deborah Keys Wright, reached out to me this afternoon to ask if she understands we're busy with return to school programming, but she did ask if we could at least pencil in some dates to determine if we can get this on the calendar. We would be, again, same location we'd already said we'd be at the Marriott in Warrensville. They've guaranteed us the opportunity to social distance. One of the reasons that we canceled the last one was because of the sheer numbers that were going to be with us on Friday night. So Mr. Jolly, at this point, I just ask, would you still feel the need for you and Dr. Rock to have your cabinet with us, or can the board meet that Friday evening and that Saturday, smaller numbers, so that we can move forward with the board governance retreat? I do know that Dr. Deborah Keys Wright did mention she planned to have a conversation with you regarding a different option for working directly with your cabinet members and Dr. Rock's assistant treasurer.
So I don't believe our cabinet needs to be present at all at this time. No, no. I think we can exclude the cabinet.
Okay, Dr. Rock, I can't see you. Are you feeling the same?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. So with that, we did do a straw poll quickly this afternoon to see what the availability was. Thanks to everyone for getting back to me so quickly. The first weekend in November is November 6th and 7th. Does that work for everyone? So I would like to get back with Deborah this evening with the text to let her know that she can pencil us in for that weekend. Is that a yes, everyone?
I'm going to say tentatively yes.
All right, thank you so much. I will let her know that that is the date that we're going to shoot toward. Dr. Rock, can you go ahead and work with the Marriott to let them know that that is our tentative new date and that the numbers will be greatly reduced?
Yes.
All right. There is nothing further on tonight's agenda. We are at item number 6, adjournment. So if there is no further discussion, no further announcements, no correspondence, may I have a motion on the floor to adjourn Wednesday, August 5th, 2020, work session of the Warrensville Heights City School District School Board?
One question,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Rock, for the CUBE conference, did you schedule me for that?
I'll have to
Doc-
double check. I don't know if you responded.
I didn't respond. So if you didn't schedule me for it, don't worry about it.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
he only scheduled those individuals that responded in that meeting or they got back with him. I think we said the
I-
next week.
Oh, I
Because
did.
we had to, oops,
What happened?
there we go. We were working to get our early bird pricing. So we had to move forward with registration.
Okay. All
Okay,
right,
so
Dr. Rock.
at this time, can I please have a motion on the floor to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Funny.
Madam Chair,
Thank you, Dr. Rock.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, I move that we actually adjourn this meeting, a work session, August 5th, 2020.
A second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. Thank you again to the board for your diligence tonight, your patience, your perseverance as Mr. Jolly, Dr. Caver, Dr. Reynolds and team have worked very hard on our return to school plan with numerous twists and turns as we've tried to work under the guidance or lack thereof of our local state government, as well as our Cuyahoga County Board of Health. It's been a journey. I think we're at a good place and we just look forward to being right here with you guys the next step of the journey. Everyone have a nice evening and please stay safe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.